Hello, my name is Hilda Osuna Perez, and today I will be presenting my final project presentation for Fundación Binacional Tijuana Sin Hambre, which relates to the Binational Tijuana Without Hunger Foundation, as part of my development in theories in philanthropy and nonprofit organizations class at Louisiana State University in Shreveport. Fundación Binacional Tijuana Sin Hambre is a registered civil association based out of Tijuana, Mexico. The organization emerged in response to the hunger crisis and underemployment that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic, which had caused a socioeconomic downturn within the community. Since then, the organization has been committed to advancing their mission to save lives by eliminating hunger and malnutrition in Tijuana. Since their inception, the organization has demonstrated commitment to address food insecurity and malnutrition by making and distributing over 3,000 meals daily to local shelters, orphanages, community centers, elderly homes, and daycare centers. These meals are served daily to immigrant communities, orphans, infant children, elderly residents, unhoused families, and victims of sexual assault and violence, which are the most vulnerable populations in Tijuana. An article on their website highlighted that in 2020, over 40,000 people in Tijuana live in extreme poverty. Half of the population that faces extreme food security are migrants who spend months waiting for asylum. The organization's main strengths derive from their binational operational structure, which allows for the organizations to operate in partnership with This Is About Humanity, an international community foundation, which are organizations based in the U.S. that also serve migrant communities and children at the U.S. borders. This relates to the concept of transnationalism, which emphasizes that international influences and funding have been instrumental in building civil society in many countries. The partnership between the three organizations explains the structure as the organizations work together to promote and advance border issues related to hunger and food insecurity by sharing resources to meet a unified goal. They do this by providing and facilitating support among many partners through multiple trans-border donations, connecting them to philanthropic opportunities, resolving unique challenges and needs that both of the borders face. The structure benefits cross-border philanthropy within Mexico's nonprofit and philanthropic sector, as it allows them to receive operational support through volunteerism on both sides, as well as receiving in-kind and monetary support from U.S. nonprofits and philanthropies. One of the ways that the organization has done this in the past is by collaborating with corporations to lead corporate social responsibility campaigns. For example, in 2024, the three organizations collaborated with Cross Border Express to spearhead the Warm Hearts and Warm Meals campaign, in which they match every dollar donated up to $25,000 each. Although its binational operational structure is a main strength, the main challenge also derives from the local government of Tijuana having limited resources. As a result, the organization has been heavily depending on cross-border donations and sponsorships. In one of the interviews, a partner from This Is About Humanity explains the difference between Tijuana and San Diego's local government budget by stating that the municipality of Tijuana operates under a budget of $500 billion, where San Diego's budget is $8 billion. This sheds light on Tijuana's local resource disparity in which the organization operates under and why they're dependent on cross-border donations from places in the U.S., such as San Diego, who has a much larger budget to allocate resources to. Although the funds and sponsorships have significantly contributed to the organization's long-term sustainability and mission, heavily depending on these funds can put the organization at risk of falling into philanthropic paternalism, which is a voluntary failure concept where foreign donors impose solutions based on their beliefs without input from the community. In the long term, this can hinder the organization from successfully contributing to Tijuana's economic development and having full autonomy on decisions that impact the communities served, as the organization may have to rely on foreign funds and feel tempted to give in to donor pressure to remain sustainable. Additionally, ongoing foreign aid freezes can result in the organization experiencing funding cuts, which can hinder their sustainability and capacity to meet demands, as local resources are limited. These challenges relate to government failure theory, arguing that nonprofits emerge to fulfill needs that government cannot meet on their own. This explains the organization's emergence during the COVID-19 pandemic in response to the hunger crisis and underemployment issues that the Mexican government sector could not address on their own. To further highlight the reasoning for starting the nonprofit, the organization shares research from the Bank of Mexico, which highlighted that the pandemic led the country to the highest level of poverty in the century. The statement, which highlights the extreme level of disparity that Mexico had suffered during this time that led to underemployment and hunger crisis, which are both issues related to government failure. Additionally, the immigration surge has led to an increase of demand of resources from shelters that cater to these communities. As Tijuana shelters have grown in numbers and adapted their services to meet the needs of excessive waves of arrivals due to U.S. policies and migration trends. These policies and circumstances have also affected Tijuana's access to foreign aid, as the current Trump administration passed an executive order that froze foreign aid to Mexico, which halted millions of dollars in foreign aid to agencies in Tijuana, suspending programs for medical, psychological care, food assistance, and other services that help thousands of migrants and low-income residents. This affected the organization's donations, which impacted the organization's long-term sustainability. The surge creates a high demand for services and shelters that organizations may not sustain, as limited resources and the lack of financial resources may not be able to meet the needs of vulnerable communities affected by the communities. Additionally, economic fluctuations impact the cost of housing, food, and other basic needs. In an article addressing the growing hunger challenges still persistent in Tijuana communities, Tijuana Sin Hambre highlights that the cost of the basic urban food basket has climbed up to 2,516 Mexican pesos per person per month, increasing the organization's demand in services by 15%. For an average family of four, the cost of food would go over 10,000 pesos monthly, which would impact low-income households of more than four individuals. As the economic fluctuations continue, the organization may find themselves in a position of not being able to have the infrastructure to continue meeting demand. The ongoing surge in immigration and poverty due to economic inflation relate to government failure, as the Mexican government and their budget has not been able to meet these demands on their own, and constituents not being satisfied with government support, which results in them turning to nonprofits to help resolve these issues. A practical recommendation to mitigate these challenges would be for the organization to diversify their funding sources so that they can decrease dependency of cross-border donations. One of the ways that this can be done is by generating revenue through training and consulting, by charging other organizations and agencies for these services on how to successfully lead programs that reduce hunger and malnutrition, as well as launching volunteer programs. This is permissible under Mexico's tax law, which allows for nonprofits to generate income as long as the efforts align with the organization's mission and does not exceed 10% of their revenue for the fiscal year. The organization could also engage in online giving campaigns to raise awareness of the issues that the communities being served face daily, with the call to action for communities in Tijuana and across Mexico to support the organization's mission by giving or volunteering their support. Additionally, diversifying funding and additional resources could also be possible through corporate sponsorships from local and national companies. Continuing to pursue these opportunities to increase efforts will not only help aid the organization's mission, but is also pivotal for Tijuana's working residents to be part of their own community and country sustainability efforts. This concludes the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time.